Guys and girls, and welcome to episode 74 of the FReality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and on Anchor. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us a nice review on iTunes. We'd really, really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that's joining us live in the chat. Hello to you all. Lovely to see all your lovely smiley faces. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Now it's time for me to introduce you to the team. First up, this guy loves nothing more than to blow off some steam by jumping headfirst into a mosh pit in VR, of course. Back from his trip in China, it's Nathie. How you doing, man? You all right?
It's good to be back, guys. Seriously, it's I missed this. I really did. So yeah, let's have some fun, right?
Yeah, we all missed you too. Everyone in the chat was like, "Where is he? Where is he gone? When is he coming back?"
Well, honestly, I liked the episode you did with Voodoo. I think we should invite him more. It's
yeah, he was a super
guest.
Nice guy. Super nice guy. Great to have him on the show.
Super chill.
And he's got a lovely collection of headsets as well.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like he tried everything. Like everything you guys like mentioned to him, he knew what you were talking about. It's like
exactly.
Yeah, he's smart.
He's a very cool dude. Yeah, you'll see more of Papa Voodoo in the future, no doubt.
That's his nickname, right?
Yeah, it is. So next up, this guy made a big mistake when booking his holiday this week. He turned out to be the all-inclusive buffet himself to an island of zombies. It is, of course, the Rowdy guy. How you doing, man? You all right?
I'm all right. Yeah. It's me who's running the stream today, so, you know, tucking in your seatbelts because it's going to be a rough one.
Yeah, Rowdy's at the helm of this fine vessel, sailing through the murky waters of the internet, so wish him luck. Okay, so next up, coming at us live from the home of maple syrup, our roving correspondent in Canada is Zimtok5. How you doing, man?
Hey, Mike. Yeah, good. A little bit nippy here. As I said a bit earlier, it's minus 13 degrees C here, so it's a bit chilly out. There's plenty of snow and ice. I've already had a few skidding moments with the vehicle, but otherwise, lovely. Absolutely lovely to be on holiday. Feels great.
Good to hear. Good to hear. You're going to be out there on next week's show as well, and then you'll be back home after that. So just to let you all guys and girls know if you were wondering. But let's talk about today's episode, because we've got a busy episode for you today. We're going to be talking about Nathie's adventures in China. Definitely looking forward to hearing some stories of your trip there. We'll be giving you all the information about Pimax Brainwarp and fixed foveated rendering, and why it's important for Pimax and why it's important for us as consumers. So we'll be giving you the lowdown on that. We'll also be talking about Valve's new headset being seen in the wild and much, much more. But first up, let's find out what everyone's been playing in VR this week and their highlight of the week. And of course, let's kick it over to Nathie first to find out what you've been up to.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah, go for it.
So when I came back from China, I was like, I gotta check like the release list, right, of what's out there. And the only thing that catched my interest was Moshpit Simulator. I was like, maybe I should just start out with something weird, you know, and don't take everything too serious. And yeah, it's a good game. It's so bad that it's good, I would say.
Okay.
It's like you remember that Goat Simulator title from a couple of years ago?
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of as well.
Yeah, it's like the same idea. It's super random. Bugs are, well, actual gameplay mechanics, I would say. And it has a story mode, because I thought that Moshpit Simulator would be a, well, Moshpit Simulator, in where you are just in a big city with mosh pits everywhere. I don't know, it sounds so stupid, but that's what I thought. And just an open world mosh pit simulator, basically. Okay, that's what I thought. But in the end, it turned out to be something else. There was a story mode.
It is the most anticipated virtual reality game ever, right? That's how. I mean, if you look at the trailer, that's what they say.
Yeah, and this developer, it took him like 2.5 years to make. So it's not like he just threw it out there. This is like a serious project. And the story mode I played is actually having a pretty legit story.
How?
It's very intriguing, I would say, and I would definitely play it for the story mode. I could tell you a little bit about what the storyline is.
Please do, because I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
Okay. How are we going to start this?
Yes,
so
we're all dying to hear.
You are arriving in a city where there are only boneless and brainless humanoids living there, okay? And you are a human that is still having brains and still having bones. And you are starting off sitting in a car together with these humanoids. They speak a funny language. And before you know it, they all fly car, they crash the car. Then you are in a like standing in front of a stage. There is a mosh pit there. Everyone is going crazy. The next moment you need to build yourself a escape vehicle. I don't know why.
I think that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Move over, Game of Thrones.
But the plot, you gotta play it for the plot twist for sure. But besides all this weird stuff, you can really see that a lot of work has been put into this project, and I think it's an art on itself. If you can develop a game with this whole like style to it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, you can say like, oh, it looks so broken and things like that, but not every developer can develop in a backwards way where it's like it needs to be glitching and it needs to be bugging, but still in a controllable way, because it's not that broken that it's game breaking. No, it's still it's a solid title. It is. It's just if you're looking for something extremely random, something that will make your brain fart after you play the storyline, this is something you have to play. But it's impressive for 2.5 years work. It's so far, yes.
Does it work against itself though? Like, I'm curious because like the way you describe it, it almost sounds like there's more thought put into it. Kind of like Goat Simulator, right? Like there's more thought put into it than you'd think on the face of it. In other words, do you think it deserves more street cred than it probably gets just from the title?
Yeah, it's just people don't take it serious when they watch the trailer and see the screenshots. But if you go to the Steam page of Moshpit Simulator, there is an actual story there of him explaining why he made this game and what he was looking for. And then you start to understand like, oh, but it's not just this silly experience. No, it's more than that. So seriously, go to Steam, check out the game description, and then you will learn more on. I think this is a game that is like an example of ultimate freedom, that you can just be a developer in this age and make whatever you want, be creative and go for it, and not be stuck with some investors telling you what to do, or really focusing on like, oh, how can I make some decent money to earn it back? No, this is just creativity on its best. It's art, I would say. Yeah.
But I think you've got to kind of be that person that enjoys like Gary's mod, or messing around with the kind of physics of things, and it's because that's what it is. It's like a sandbox and chaos game. And Gary's mod and those kind of titles too, they have such a big player base. Those games
were good and are still good. And yeah, that's a genre on itself, I would say.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's find out what. Oh, hello. Let's find out what Rowdy's been up to. That was my controller falling
Okay,
down.
you startled me there for a moment. Like, no, I've actually what I've been playing for this week. I've actually not been playing a game. I've actually spent all of my time pretty much in virtual reality in Oculus Home, and it's all because of that's all because of Zim. Because I was like, you was talking about crates and stuff like that, and like, what are all the crates about? What is all of that? And I was like, I actually have never opened these kind of crates before. So I went into my Oculus Home, and Zim had to explain me like where I could find the crates, and yeah, I had like, I mean, I don't even know how many there are since I've been opening them for like hours. I think I got back to August 2018. So I still have like about like a couple of years to go before I can open them all. But I think I have pretty much everything unlocked by now. Like that I could find in the crates at least. For now, and then I spent, of course, like doing up my room. I did everything there, and then I found out that I could also import my own models. So I started doing that as well. So I went to Sketchfab, found some models, and I completely customized my room. And I finally made it available for the public, so you guys can go and check it out now as well. So
nice.
That was pretty much what I spent for hours.
What custom models did you import in the end?
I used some Star Wars stuff, like a lightsaber. I used like a TIE fighter, a life-size one that I like made like fly outside. I had, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan as well, so I took like some character models from there. So I had like Cloud Strife, Sephiroth, Squall. I got a life-size Titus, a life-size Aerith. I got a Portal Love Cube. I got with that in there as well. So I put like a ton of stuff in there, but it was a lot of fun. And I think it's cool that you can like personalize these kind of things to like stuff that you like yourself, so that it's become like something that really like characterizes your room. So yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that.
Wait, so this is what you call your house, or is this more like a pop culture zoo?
Both.
But for the people that don't know, how do you find these crates? Because if you gotta search for it, that's usually a bad
it's not that you need to search for it. It's just, I mean, I never, like, I get so many notifications from, like, people notifying, like, inviting you to a game, or, like, getting, like, a friend's added. So I don't really check the notifications that often. But it's under notifications that you also get, like, those kind of crates. So I didn't really check that ever.
And it's a wonderful process, isn't it, going backwards for months and months and months and months.
I think that's why Oculus need like an open all button. So you just open all the ones you haven't opened so far, and it just all gets added to you.
Doesn't it?
I don't know.
I wish you could do something to batch them, even if it was like a 5-in-1. Like, let me open 5 boxes and then all this break open in front of me in some kind of pattern. Because the thing that's nicest when you open the boxes is if you get something that's like rare. Because the thing that a lot of people don't know who haven't opened a lot of crates on Oculus Home is that you can get items that are of a certain quality, a certain class, and then you only get one of them until you get a chance to open, another one. You can only place that one object somewhere in your room, and then that's it. You can't just duplicate it. So I actually think that lockdown in Oculus Home is what really makes Oculus Home a lot nicer than the Vive equivalent, the Steam VR Home.
Cool. Yeah. I definitely want to experiment more with importing my own models, because there's some really nice models on Sketchfab.
Yeah, that makes it so much cooler, like, because you get like something that is way, way, way more personal, or something that you like yourself so much more. So yeah, I had a ton of fun doing it. Yeah,
I've had my eyes on a Ed.209 from RoboCop for a while now, but I think it's like $30. And is it worth spending $30 to have a really cool model in my Oculus Home? I really don't know, especially because I don't know if it will work or not, because it might be just too detailed to work or something. So I don't know.
Yeah, I had a little bit of problems like importing some models that were just like too big, or like too big in size maybe. So I couldn't import everything. Sometimes it would work if I would scale them down. Then again, then it would work, but not in all cases. So.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you've ever imported any models into your Oculus Home and what they are. I'd be super intrigued to find out. But let's find out what Zim's been up to other than traveling halfway across the planet to Canada. What have you been up to, dude?
Loads of fun. I was playing loads of VR just before going. The main thing after kind of did my final stream, I was like, okay, I'm heading away, and then had my birthday pop up, and my wife got me a full body green suit. So I ended up streaming that, which was fucking loads of fun. I'm a complete idiot in the thing, as you do, but being able to, I did a kind of a thing with Beat Saber, and I went absolutely to town trying to beat some Expert Plus levels. And when you're in a full body suit, like they breathe pretty well, just not that well. So that thing is pretty rank at the moment. But it was just so much fun to have a laugh with that, and having gotten the green screen and now the full green screen suit, I was like, how can I do these two things at once? And so we did find out a way which is really, really neat to kind of combine the two, and so I looked like I was just a man full of flame and like this moving. It was fucking sweet. So that was a surprise gift from my wife, and she obviously knows me well enough.
Every time when I hear someone telling about a green suit, I have to think about that one thing from Josh Dopp.
Yeah,
he posted on Twitter. I'll see if I can find it for our listeners. But that was hilarious. Like it makes the content so much better.
I mean, the thing is, like, you have to have a specific application if you want to use it for something, right? And like, so my first thing was like, I'm going to be a floating Dread Halls guy. I'm just going to be a head in Dread Halls with the headset on, and I'm going to be doing that. And it worked pretty well. I need a higher quality camera to be able to pick up my face at distance, at higher quality. But other than that, it was just fun to just play around with this stuff. And that's why I got into the whole green screen stuff, just to feck about and have a play. So generally speaking, that was it. The only thing that I was going to compare it to, which I did as well for the first time, and I think Nathie's probably done this one before, is Cirque du Soleil. So I tried that for the first time, which actually, I've never been to Cirque du Soleil in real life, and having actually seen it, super impressed with the talent. I always thought that it was like one particular thread or one kind of theme. Like if you were to see pirates live, it's just people swinging on ropes, drinking beer, and going after wenches. But it's not like that. Like Cirque du Soleil, in terms of the VR offering, is like 4 different very unique slices, from kind of steampunk to kind of Chinese dynasty, and very interesting. It didn't run very well for me because I was running it live, and for some reason my encoder wasn't compatible. Even though it's only like a 360 video, it was still pretty cool. So if anyone's, I think it's paid for a couple of bucks or whatever. But if you're looking for something a bit artsy, then that's not a bad way to go. That was my week.
360, right?
Yeah, it's 360, but it's pretty high quality 360. It's definitely on the higher end of what I've seen. It's not as quite as high as like Henry 5K, but it's up there. It's no Nicolas Cage.
But it was an app that was on the Oculus Store.
Yep.
Yeah.
This Oculus Home on the Rift is where I tried it. You can also do it on the Go, which I should do while I'm here because I've got my Go with me. So I'll compare and see if it's any good.
Cool.
If
cool.
If it can't beat Nicolas Cage, you know what time it is. So I think that's a good tip you can give everyone here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where the bar is.
Yeah. So this week I broke out the PSVR again. I've been playing with it quite a lot just recently. I've been really enjoying myself with it. And I took a bit of advice from PD. He's probably in the chat, so hello to PD if you're there. But he picked up Battlefront a while ago when he first got his PSVR. He got it cheap in a store. And so I was in town. One of my favorite stores in town is like CEX. I don't know if you guys have a CEX local to you, but if you're not familiar with CEX, like if you're in the US or whatever, basically it's like a secondhand store for electronic items and games, basically.
It's a pawn shop for games.
Exactly.
Pawn shop. Oh.
So you can get some really nice bargains in there, some really nice retro consoles, retro games. Sometimes you can find some right hidden gems in there. So I was having a look around and I saw Battlefront, and I think it was like £5. So relatively cheap, but it has the VR mission included in it as part of it for free that you can play on the PSVR, and it's the X-Wing, like Star Wars X-Wing VR mission. So I was like, I haven't tried this. I'm a big fan of Star Wars. Let's just pick it up. So I bought it, took it home, and it was a physical disc. So I was thinking I'll just fire it up, play it straight away. But no, with everything nowadays on the PlayStation, you have to like download an update, which happened to be 20 gigabytes.
Wow.
So I had to wait ages for that to finish. Then once I fired up the game, and got into the menu, then it says, oh no, you have to download the VR mission. So you download that from the menu in the game. So that was another 1.5 gigabytes.
Kidding? Really?
No, genuinely. So after that, I did actually get to try it. And to be fair, it is worth the wait and the money. It is really, really cool experience. It's just basically like, your childhood dream, of flying an X-Wing. It's every kid's like dream, right? So actually being able to do it in VR was a really cool experience. And of course, you don't get to use like a HOTAS or anything like that. You just get to use a control pad. But the experience was actually pretty polished. I was surprised, actually. You can look around and see the R2 unit behind you, like sort of spinning around and giving you information. And you've got audio from your co-pilots who are in different X-Wings as well. And the whole story takes place during Rogue One, basically, the Rogue One movie. And you're basically tasked with escorting a ship that contains K2SO and Jyn Erso from the movie to sort of part of their destination in the movie.
Oh, nice.
And then obviously, you get attacked by TIE fighters and an Imperial ship comes in. You get to fly around that, which is really cool. And the whole thing lasts about 17 minutes, which I thought was a decent length for just like a VR mission.
Yeah.
So overall, I thought it was a really good experience. I think if you can pick up Battlefront relatively cheap, like for a $5 or cheaper, then definitely go and check it out. Because if you're a Star Wars fan, you'll definitely get something out of it. And also, it's great to demo to other people, although it might be a bit intense for newcomers. Is the warning I would give you.
I would say same with Ace Combat. Just like later on, put it separately in the store.
Yeah, it would be really nice.
Because at launch, this is selling very well. I totally get it to include that within the base game. But later down the road, like how many people are still going to the store like you and think, maybe I should buy this one mission. So I think they should just put it on there in the PSVR section. I think that would be nice because not everyone knows that there is a VR mission inside Battlefront.
Yeah, exactly, because the sequel's out already, so I guess most people are buying that. But the thing is, like playing this and obviously Ace Combat the other week, it really gave me a flavor for this kind of genre. And I just think, I just love a proper Star Wars dogfighting game, where you're an X-Wing pilot, like a VR version of Rogue Squadron would be just next level,
Cool.
I think.
Yeah, that would be a flight simulator I would get into as well, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the closest you can get right now is like Elite Dangerous Deathmatch and then maybe a bit of E-Valkyrie. So
exactly.
So they're pretty much graveyards now, unfortunately. Both of their matchmaking.
Yeah.
I used to play a lot of CQC, Close Quarters Combat in Elite with friends, and it was great. It was really, really good. Then E-Valkyrie was going toe-to-toe with it, and that was quite lively for a time. But I do find, like, if you're trying to look for a match now, it's very hit or miss in either.
And
the thing... Go on.
One more title that is soon gonna disappear is Star Blood Arena, is also kind of similar to that, but that one will soon be off air.
And that's because the servers are going offline, right?
Yes, because it wasn't popular enough. That
happens to a lot of games, both VR and non-VR, and it's kind of feels criminal sometimes. I remember playing Grid Race Driver and then wanting to go back to it, reinstalled it, and it was like, what?
Yes.
Oh, there's no servers online anymore. This is like part of it was the first game that I bought where like part of my game had just died. And I can still play StarCraft. I can still play all these old like multiplayer games. But when it's reliant on servers to be supported and still humming, it kind of feels like, wow, you've killed off half the game. But no, Mike, definitely for me, Pod Racer. I can't wait till we have. And Red Out right now is my closest to it.
Yeah.
Like I really love a Pod Racer game.
Dude, there is a pod racing demo that was for the DK2. Maybe you could revive it. There's a video on my channel, but you have like your own pod racer from the movie, but you can also get out and go to the cantina bar and drink and explore all kinds of buildings. And the race itself is extremely rough. Like the moment you fall out of your pod, like your pod racer, Yoda's like popping up at your front dashboard, and it says like, "Careful, motion sick you will get." It's like it's like the most. I think like it's great, like because it goes super fast, but it's such an old demo. I don't even know if it's gonna work, but
actually just to dovetail into something I was saying to Mike as well when I'd heard he'd played this new game. Battle of Endor was an old, like 2014 DK1, DK2 game, which when you talk to me about Battlefront, having not played it, like that's immediately what comes into my mind, which again was, you're in an X-Wing and you're blasting off other enemies and stuff and flying around Star Destroyers, which was good at the time. And actually, it was converted up. I have to go back and play it now because it was converted to CV1 and Vive. And so there is actually an available download link over on Reddit. And so check that out. That's Battle of Endor, which was like a fan project similar to what Nathie's talking about. But I remember watching your video at the time, actually, Nathie, because I never did the pod racer one.
Trust me, it was rough, very rough. But if you talk about Star Wars in general, every time we get something that is VR related, it's just a little bit. It's never like 2-3 hours Star Wars or like as Mike said, like a complete full game. It's always just an experience. But it makes sense
because there's only a very small part of the team that is working on that very big experience in a way. I mean,
we're getting Vader Immortal though, aren't we?
Well, that's what I mean.
Vader Immortal is going to be a full Star Wars game. That'll be the first one in VR, I guess, that we're going to get. So
the only other one that I would mention is when we did, what was that? What's the full
the Void?
The Void, the Void experience at Oculus Connect 5 was great.
Yeah,
really good. Like there were some metal places I didn't want to fall off and all that. But if you ever get a chance to do the Void, I got to say, having only done it once, it's really cool.
So Paradise Decay in the chat is saying to tell me that the Call of Duty Space VR experience on PSVR is free, and you don't need the game apparently. So,
dude, gotta try that. It's amazing. I really enjoyed that. The game itself was bad, but that experience was top notch. Also, if you do like Star Wars, Trials of Tatooine is free, as far as I know. Droid Repair Bay is free.
Yes.
And there is another one from that's like a 360, but I can't remember who made that. But there are some Star Wars things. Oh yeah, wait, it's from the Disney app. If you have that Disney, I think it's on Steam and also Oculus Home. You can play some 360s there.
Okay, because the app is be very good.
Also you can sit in a TIE fighter. If you don't have a PlayStation VR, you can, but it's just a 360 playing in front of you. But
well, hang on, you're one-upping the Call of Duty experience. If this is the same thing that I remember, where you're flying around and shooting out other dogfighters, it had 2D sprites as the explosion, like literally those that used to they rotate. Are we talking about the same game?
Wolfenstein Explosions? No, it was called Call of Duty Jackhammer, as far as I know. But it's a nice experience, I would say. And yeah, it's free. You don't need to. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Please make these VR experiences a standalone thing or a timed exclusive for the launch to hype people up. But later on, who's talking about Star Wars Battlefront now? The first one. Who's still playing that? So,
we are.
Well, yes, now, but just make it a separate thing, please, because so many people would like to play it.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely, if you get the opportunity to pick up cheap, go and check it out. And obviously, you can check out this Call of Duty one for free, which I'm going to check out as well. So let's move into some quick news then. And first off, let's talk about Cloudhead Games and Valve. Cloudhead Games are friends of the show. We've had them on the show previously, actually. We had Stevens on the show about a year ago now, if not longer. And at the time, they were talking about their latest game, which was, of course, The Gallery Episode 2, was just about to be released. And even back then, we were hounding them for information about the Knuckles controllers because they had access to them. And they were open about the fact they had them. And, they were one of the first games to be released on Steam VR for the Vive. So it's good to say that they've got a pretty decent relationship with Valve. I think it's fair to say that. And Denny from the Cloudhead team this week, he posted a picture on Twitter basically showing him with some blurred out controllers and a blurred out headset. And they put this creepy emoji over the headset as well, which is kind of weird. But it was clear from the image, you could tell that they were the Valve Knuckles controllers because of the shape and the string, the drawstring at the bottom. It was so clear. That
it was even sticking out, like they didn't even blur the whole thing. It was kind of badly.
You can see the ring around it.
Exactly. Yes. And then if you looked closely at the headset, because you could just make out the corner of it, it was obvious that this was going to be the Valve headset that was rumored and leaked before. We saw leaked pictures of this Valve headset, and it has really sort of distinctive 2 cameras at the bottom that kind of almost look like the bottom of Vader's mask. They kind of jut out a little bit. So when we were seeing this image that Denny posted, the side profile of it looked identical to that profile of that lower camera. So everyone was obviously going crazy over this image because this is the first time we've ever seen this headset out in the wild and confirmed in the hands of developers. So it was super interesting. Everyone went crazy. Unfortunately, the image got taken down. But what's interesting about this whole thing is that it kind of adds legitimacy to the leak, that we saw previously, and also adds up to the stats that we talked about in last week's show, where it suggested that 42% of developers were working on hardware that we don't even know is available right. Yeah, so it's really exciting, I think. It's super cool of them to share it, and I think if anyone's going to have it, they're going to have it, but I'm sure this is in other people's hands as well. But what do you guys think about it?
First of all, I was like, this is the most dangerous thing you can post, and just be like, hey, let's put a smiley over it. Well, everyone is like so serious about this subject, and they're just like, hey, let's just do this, and we'll see what happens, right? It's so funny. They just don't take it, because I mean, Cloudhead Games is always one of the first ones to get this kind of stuff. They were one of the first ones to even make a game for Steam VR. So
I remember seeing on the Kickstarter of Sixth Sense that they were like making videos about like using the Sixth Sense controls. That's how far back they go. So
yeah,
that's the first VR game that I know.
They even put Hydras on the top of their headsets to get tracking. So yeah, they are OGs. But yeah, I don't know, like just the fact that you don't blur it completely and you see the edge of a headset is already like something that could. I mean, so I'm not surprised that they deleted this, because it was, but then it was everywhere anyway. So I don't know, like when you post it, just keep it on there, because there's no way back.
Yeah, it was great.
But, I mean, it's not like they're showing that much though. Like you see an edge, and everyone kind of knows. I mean, if they're kind of like like tweeting like a headset that nobody has seen, then everyone is going to guess that it's going to be the Valve headset anyway.
I think for the uneducated, no one would think twice about it. But for us that are deeply embedded in the industry and want to know everything, we spotted it straight away. I just want to give a quick shout out to Gamertag VR for giving us a super chat. Thank you very much, $4.99. Thank you very much, saying we could all buy a donut. Nice. Keep up the good work and providing this kind of entertainment on a Saturday. So thank you very much to Gamertag VR.
If we keep this up, Mike, then you could maybe buy that robot. The Robocop.
yeah, Ed 209 fund, exactly.
Oh.
But yeah, I've said this before, but I think right now is a great opportunity for both Valve and Pimax, because there is a window here where Oculus are focused on the Quest and standalone, which is great. They're doing their own thing. You've got HTC that are focusing on the Cosmos, making this kind of hybrid between PC and mobile. They're doing their own thing. And you've got this window in the middle where PCVR isn't being really looked at right now. So you've got Pimax with obviously their headsets, which is great. They're kind of filling a gap. And then if Valve comes in before these other manufacturers can make their next gen headset, then it's going to be a smash. They're going to do amazing anyway.
Dude, if all that happens this year, I have no clue what's going to happen in the VR industry, but it's going to be a meteor like slamming into the ground, and it's going all over the place. Like just thinking of this, like how many opportunities there are like laying around right now of what people can buy, and this, like, you can buy a PC headset, you can buy a standalone headset, you can buy some hybrid headset. So there is so much more now than just one thing. So I really think if Valve sells this to another company who's going to publish the headset, or they do it themselves, I don't know what's going to happen, but so many people are so triggered by it. It's crazy.
I'm convinced that they'll make it themselves and they'll sell it on the Steam store, just like they do the other Steam hardware that they produce. But I'm so excited about this new headset, and I can't wait for them to finally unveil it and give us all the juicy information that we want about it.
But in general, can we say that these are like maybe the next gen headsets? Is like the 2.0 lineup already, or is this still in the first part of like Vive, Oculus, and those mixed reality headsets, or?
A lot of that will depend ultimately on the specs that they deliver. I mean, if
but when is something a next generation?
But when is something really next generation? Is it like, increased
I
field of
think
view? Is it higher
standalone
resolution?
is next generation for sure. Like wireless, for me personally, is next generation for sure. That's a big step forward. So I don't know what you guys think, but for me it feels like a next gen lineup that might be able to conquer the market even further and make it more mainstream too, of course.
I think the more competition in the market space, the better. It's going to be better.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That has an integration either with an accessory or something that stands it aside from what's there at present. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hardware specification. I think immersive integration between hardware and software, whatever that is, whether that's a home experience of something Void-like, whether that's something that is such a cornering of the market that it's almost like an Apple level of product leap ahead of what's currently there. It doesn't necessarily have to be the hardware side, because I know there's plenty of product teams out there who've been playing that. I mean, if you look at them, Pimax are essentially doing that. They're saying, we will give you resolution, right? And that's like one of their day pieces. But I would almost consider them to be near enough to 2.0. But I just want Valve to drop it. I really am interested in this because I've been itching, and I have just been itching on, what's the next VR equipment? And people have been asking me this as well, like, what's the next VR headset you're going to buy? Like, I don't know it yet. It's not been announced yet. Aside from Quest, which is it's like Go for me. It's like a toy. I'm going to have it on the side. I'll do some projects with it. But aside from that, it's not going to replace my daily driver. So the question really is, will this replace my daily driver? And if it will, I am excited.
I think the biggest feature, of course, will be the Knuckles. If they bring out first-party games that are going to work best on the Knuckles and this headset together, well, then you're not going to have that experience on Rift. So it's going to be very interesting. Whether it will be the next best thing or not, of course, we don't know yet. But it's just very exciting that another headset is coming to the market for sure.
That's another flavor.
That's true.
Right? Like, it's like, I've got vanilla here and I've got chocolate here, and now they've just released strawberry. Like, even if it's a different flavor but kind of on the same level, like you say, as long as it stands on its own, even with the Knuckles, which me, again, I haven't been impressed with so far, I'd still buy into it. It's still some experience.
Plus, content-wise, if one company who's offering a PCVR headset is able to give people new experiences and games every month that are worth playing, like Sony did still does for 2 years, then you can really also win a lot of people for you, right? You can have a big community in that sense, because you can buy a headset, but if you as a customer are not getting value back in the next months and maybe even years, then it doesn't match. So that could also play like a big role. But to kind of kill the excitement a little bit, I'm sorry, Sherzad says, you guys have way too high expectations of this Valve headset. You are taking a big risk of disappointment. And maybe it could be that it's not that in a way amazing, but
in a way, it also depends a little bit on your definition of like what is really like next generation. Like, I mean, the next generation iPhone is not that big of a difference. But if you look at, for example, like, how the PlayStation progresses through their iterations, which take much longer, I think that the leap is much bigger in a way. But I've seen like people in the chat also say maybe it's more like graphic cards. It's the improvements are not really that noticeable. It's more like in the like the software level, or it's more on like the optimization level, and those are like a lot of things that can still be improved in that way. Because I mean, I'm still having problems sometimes just loading certain games because it gets like too hard.
Like comfort. You give me a headset that's half the weight, I'll buy that tomorrow.
So Gamertag used our analogy of different flavors, and he says he likes to mix vanilla, banana, strawberry, and chocolate milkshakes together. He says it looks like poo, but tastes delicious.
But I think that next generation is maybe a cloudy name, and for everyone, next generation means something else. And some companies, they put this sticker on it of being next gen, but that's of course a nice sales pitch.
How about some current generation games? How about that?
Oh, don't get me started. Okay, before we get triggered about like Valve and Valve games, because this happens every time we mention this headset.
Do we want to go there?
No, we don't. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Sure.
Let's draw a line under it.
Fast.
Let's just say we're excited to hear more.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Done.
So let's move on.
That's all you have to say, basically. We could have saved up 15 minutes of talking space here.
It gets you all so triggered. It really does. Let's talk about the Oculus Go, because we had a great bit of news, and it's great for us as content creators, so I won't dwell on it too much because it doesn't maybe interest that many other people. But for us, it's great news because the Oculus Go is one of the most accessible VR headsets you can buy right now. It's so simple and easy to use, and despite that, it's the most difficult headset to record VR gameplay with and share it online. It's a nightmare. To get the best footage, you basically have to record the video to the headset and transfer it to your PC. But the problem is that video file doesn't include the gameplay audio. So you need to come up with a solution to capture that separately and then sync it up in post. And it's an absolute headache and a nightmare. But we got around it and we sort of produce content with it, but it's one of those things that we complained about, especially when we met up with Oculus at OC5, and we always kind of thought that it was a limitation with Android, the platform, because even with Android phones right now there isn't the function to be able to do that. So we thought it was kind of out of Oculus's hands and we weren't going to see a fix, but this week they kind of just surprised us out of the blue, and now when you record content on the Oculus Go and record it to the headset, it records the video and audio from the gameplay, which is just awesome news, and this just makes me so happy. I can't tell you how happy I am as a content creator.
They must have bought Android. They must have.
Something like that. They did something magical behind the scenes, and I thank them wholeheartedly for putting the work in, because I appreciate it mustn't have been an easy task, because otherwise it would have been in from the beginning. But what makes me super excited about this update is the fact that this is likely to carry over to the Quest when that launches, which is again going to make our lives easier, sharing that content with you guys and girls, our audience, who are desperate to see this gameplay as soon as this headset drops. So I just kind of wanted to share that, give a bit of a shout out to Oculus, and say thank you for putting in the hard work. We really appreciate it as content creators, and we look forward to playing around with this feature in the very near future.
On the Quest.
Definitely.
On the Quest, yeah,
also,
for sure.
I'm just holding my Go, and I'm like, this is a new one, by the way. I just unpacked it, but there's still a piece of plastic here. Do you want to hear some satisfying...
Ready for some ASMR?
Should I also look into the camera while I'm doing this? Or?
Do it. Maybe lick your lips at the same time.
Okay, wait.
No. We
Should I
don't
do
want to
that
lose
or not?
viewers.
Go for it.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, God. There you go. Some ASMR for you. We deliver everything on this podcast.
Yeah, maybe we should do unboxings on our podcast with the sounds. Like, listen to the sound.
Yeah.
Can you smell it too?
If you didn't get goosebumps whilst you're listening to the audio version of the show, then you should be ashamed of yourself.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about the final bit of... we've got more quick news. We've got a whole bunch of quick news still to go. So sorry, this isn't quick news this week. This is long news. So talking about Oculus, let's talk about this mysterious door that appeared in Oculus Home this week. Because if you checked your inventory this week in Oculus Go and in Oculus Home, and you were lucky enough, you maybe got this mysterious door added to your inventory, and you could add it to your Oculus Home. And basically, Oculus tweeted about this door and said, "Adventure awaits through this door. How will you forge your destiny? A new journey is coming soon from Sazaru Games and Oculus Studios." So if you're not aware, this is the same team that brought you Marvel Powers United. And I was trying to figure out a way, if there's some way to open this door, it'd take you to like Narnia or some magical land. I got so excited by it. I even invited PD round and Nathie round to my Oculus Home, and we tried to open it together, thinking that was the magical key to open this door. But sadly, that's not the case. No. It just doesn't do anything. We've had it confirmed by Oculus now that this door doesn't do anything. It's just a cosmetic item in Oculus Home.
After you spend 4 hours trying to open it, you gotta confirm.
Yeah. Time wasted.
For the people wondering, I even went so far that I put my head through the doors, and there was nothing inside the doors, and also not behind it. So I don't know what kind of dark sorcery this is, but I don't know. I was like joking to Mike where I said something like, and when it opens, it's like some kind of Marvel Powers United DLC. I don't know.
Well, I think it seems like this is going to be a completely new game. I don't think it's going to be anything to do with Marvel Powers United, because the doors, if you've not seen them, I'll describe them to you. They look unique. They're big wooden doors with like a fiery sort of things going either side. And basically they've got like carved dragons in them and 2 skulls. And It's called on their Discord. If you go on their Discord, it's under the name Project Forge, and they've actually got a video on there as well where Oculus went in, burst into their room as they were test playing this game, and you kind of got a little bit of a flavor of the gameplay from the small screen that you could see, and it looks like it's a melee combat game. Definitely had a shield in there somewhere, so it looks like maybe they've got some similar gameplay elements from Marvel Powers United, which, to be fair to that game, had some good bits to it. Like the character models were really nice. It was a nice fan service for Marvel enthusiasts, but it was just the gameplay loop was repetitive and boring, and the arenas were very small and kind of boring as well. But maybe now that they're not tied to Marvel and they don't have the pressure from maybe Marvel and Disney about how to make this game, they can make something unique and more interesting, hopefully, with this next one.
It kind of depends on what audience they are looking for, because Marvel Powers United was a game that was made for the people that bought an Oculus Rift with Marvel Powers United as a bundle, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the gameplay itself was straightforward, and it was kind of like an easy thing to jump into and get your first VR legs. So I hope that this one is more serving to everyone. I think that would be a good approach. And then, as you said, they need to step up the content there. And they need to build it in a way where they can improve it. Because with Marvel Powers United, they were stuck with it from the start. There was no way they could fix that whole thing of like adding more to it. So if they developed it in a smart way and they can add more to it and keep it fresh, then I'm totally in for it. It gives me a little bit of a like looking at the door. It gives me a little bit of an like Indiana Jones in China feeling. I don't know.
It's funny because someone in the chat I saw mentioned "Hold the door." Which is a reference to Game of Thrones, right? Which is also in line of like how the thing looks like. Maybe it's something to do with that.
It could be. It's got two dragons on it.
Yeah.
What about this? This is an Oculus Go title?
No, Rift.
Or is it? It's a Rift title.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I was getting excited about the potential because they have developed multiplayer IP before. Again, multiplayer titles can be hit or miss, but I was hopeful that we'd get another multiplayer title on the go. But even on Rift, sounds interesting. Sounds fantasy though.
Yeah,
it sounds like a fantasy game.
What I would have liked is that this door was interactive, and you've mentioned it before, Zim. Having a lift where you could visit other people's homes. That would be a really cool feature, or like a bit like a garden where you've got a games room, like on Oculus Go rooms where you can play like board games and stuff. That would have been really neat. So if this had opened up and been a portal to somewhere, that would have been so epic. As a marketing strategy, it would have been really interesting as well, because we've seen this kind of stuff implemented in Steam VR home environments where you need two players to open a secret door, which then there was a big rocket in there, and it was really interesting just to go and explore with a friend. So hopefully, that this idea can be pushed further in the future.
It could be or just a prop and it doesn't do anything, or it could be set to a countdown where on the announcement of when this game is coming and what it is, it might open. But then I'm like, from a marketing perspective, you should at least hint a little bit, because now people are like, okay, we tried it, that's it, done. Well, if you would have hinted to it, people stay excited and they are constantly triggered by what this door is all about. But now it was more like, okay, we got a new unlock apparently, and it's like something that also came out of a box, and that's all.
Yeah, exactly. And
they did say in the movie that on Tuesday they're gonna provide more information, right? So
exactly. But if you've got any suggestions, I'd love to see them in the chat. Some people are saying, Game of Thrones. I think that would be likely, as well. But with the new series coming soon, it would kind of make sense. And plus, Marvel, Sazaru and Oculus worked on that big IP with Marvel before, so having another big IP like Game of Thrones would make sense.
Well,
but we shall see, I guess. Find out more on Tuesday. So if you're interested in finding out what this is, stay locked to the Sazaru Twitter and Oculus Twitter accounts on Tuesday, and I'm sure it'll all be revealed then. But it's cool that we've got another big game to look forward to as well, because they've kind of been thin on the ground just recently.
It's been a while, it's been a while.
Yeah. So the final bit of quick news is Subnautica Below Zero, because that came out this week in early access on Steam and the Epic Store. But sadly, the game doesn't look like it's ever going to get VR support, which is a real shame, as I know many people enjoyed the first one in VR, particularly Zim. You know, he was a big advocate of the original game in VR on the show. So how do you feel about this one, Zim?
Honestly, I was really close with the devs, and about 9 months ago, they were talking about kind of patching existing Subnautica with a VR equivalent patch. And at the time, we're also talking about how they were going to dedicate some resources to focusing on VR for this. So, you know, having not seen the VR tidy up on original Subnautica, having not seen any positive news, and now seeing some negative rumors that, you know, it's very likely that this is not going to get VR supported, I think is a huge shame. And over my left shoulder is a kind of Subnautica-esque poster. Actually, I'm just saying. But I think the game is one of the best environments you can explore. I just wish that if they fleshed it out, if they ironed it out bug-wise, it's just one of the best experiences that I've had. And it's such a wonderful array of experience, because you go from like the wonderful lapping waters of like, you know, the blue kind of shallows to the depths of, I don't know what I'm going to face. I don't know where I'm going to come across. And I really like the artistic style of Below Zero and where they were going to go with this. And I'm super keen on it. And for anyone who doesn't remember or wasn't part of it, like the early days of super broken, fecked up Subnautica, it was really rough. Their approach to the game design was totally different. Halfway through the game, they had to reconstruct so many different things. And it's what led to this kind of bolt-on process led to what is a relatively underperforming game, not only in VR, but also on PC. They spent the time to optimize and buff it before their 1.0 release, got it ready. I know that they could do it. They've made huge improvements and overhauls in VR. So I really think that it's probably their investor and their, you know, the money in their pocket that's disabling them from doing it, not their spirit. I think if they had the money to do it, they had an investor team behind them, they do it. So I honestly think that somebody like, again, Oculus, HTC, whomever, has some chump change around for supporting developers should really reach out to them. I mean, maybe they're not a 4VR exactly title, but they could be, and they've already proven
because
it.
They got the experience. That's exactly, like, even if they would make a new title, that would be amazing. Like if something in that style, in that genre, because like I said before, like I've played like a few of those kind of games, like in virtual reality as well, and they all worked really, really well, because you get that extra feeling of immersion that is so crucial in a game like this. So I think it's a perfect genre for VR.
Instead of building a game from scratch, you could also, as a company, throw some money at this DLC and make it VR ready. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got a point there, and I think they shouldn't shy away from the idea of productizing this and turning this into VR content, because other games have done it. But they say, you know, you're not just going to get it for free. And even if the expectation is out there for free, heck it, like, let's actually put a price tag on it, have people pay for it. I think people will pay for no issue.
I think so, especially as the game's relatively cheap anyway. But we have a statement actually from the developers, because they were asked this a lot, obviously, on the Steam community page for the game, and they responded by saying, "Sadly, we don't think we'll be able to do VR justice. Not because we don't love VR, we do. We all own multiple headsets. We wanted to do a better job with Subnautica 1, but time and availability of people was difficult, and we just don't want people having a bad experience in VR for Below Zero. So we're not likely going to do it." Unless we can find the time, making the game itself right now is top priority.
Makes sense.
But it's a real shame, because
you know what I mean? Like, that's going to be the next. So.
Yeah, the problem is, like, this has happened again recently with another game. I'm sure you're probably aware of this, Zim, and that's Dirt Rally 2. You know, Codemasters have stated that it's not going to have VR support. And the thing is, Dirt Rally, the original, is like held close and dear to many sim racers out there that love that game. And especially, you know, those that had triple monitors had sold those triple monitors to get like a VR headset to play these games in the future, and then to learn that
but
the future games aren't going to be supported in VR.
That's just a very weird decision, because if there's one genre in virtual reality that already now is like top notch, it's sim racing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sim racing or sim flying or whatever.
Well, apparently it's not interesting enough, and there are not enough people that do, because they can see the stats of people being in VR in Dirt Rally, that they consider doing it in the next one. So it still needs to grow, apparently, to make Codemasters and others make the magic happen. I don't know, but just look at the disappointment in the eyes of this. If this one man that loves Subnautica has posters in his bathroom everywhere,
force out tears.
Don't smile now, Zim. Look sad.
Like developer Zim is singing the song of the people. You know, he's the one that stands on that stage and gets everyone behind him. I think he makes a good point. I mean, I'm not a big Subnautica fan, but just take the risk and make more VR stuff. I mean, you already did before. The blueprint is there, so why not use that and continue?
I think the thing is here, you know, there's a petition going around for Dirt Rally 2 VR support. If you're interested, go and sign that petition so the devs know at least there's a growing community of people behind it. But also do the same with, Subnautica. Let the devs know that you want this as a feature. The more we keep on telling devs this is what we want, then eventually they might listen to us. You never know. So that's a roundup of the quick news this week. I'm going to pass it over to Rowdy to handle this week's releases for the games that you should and maybe shouldn't look forward to playing. So take it away, Rowdy.
That's a little bit of a giveaway. Yeah, so the games are releasing today or this coming week. First up was The Mage's Tale. We've already played that game, I think, all of us, on the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, but now it's also coming to the PlayStation VR for $29.99. All the prices that I'm listing are going to be in dollars. I got a trailer ready too, so I should probably put that on.
It's a bit of a How much did you guys play Mage's Tale? I mean, I played probably an hour and a half or something, but it seemed like it's a really long game, actually.
It is.
Yeah, I've never played the full version, actually. I've only done I think they did like a short demo at first. I think I played that one. But indeed, this one is, I'll read the description. It's explore 10 deadly dungeons, decipher refighting puzzles, avoid terrifying traps, and vanquish hordes of monsters, all while slinging and crafting powerful magic spells in breathtaking virtual reality. So yeah, released on Oculus Rift and HTC Vive on March 2018.
It's a polished experience. It's a fun spell fighter, and it has been in development for so freaking long. It's crazy.
And
so that's VR, isn't it? Like, because I mean, that's one that again, they're getting so much. So sorry, is it launching on all headsets? Like it's going gold, going 1.0, or is it only launching on PSVR?
No, it's already launched on Steam and for HTC Vive and Oculus Rift in March 2018. So it's now coming to the PlayStation VR on the 5th of February.
Good luck to them. Hopefully they does well on PSVR.
It's a polished title. It's a very polished title. And then next up, Moshpit Simulator in early access now. Well, we already talked about it, but I had a trailer for it ready, so I really want to play it. So people get an idea of like what it's all about. Indeed, when you look at the trailer at the beginning, you think, oh, it is indeed a mosh pit. You know, it is. That's what it's all about. But it clearly isn't like that, because indeed the description reads, Moshpit Simulator is an open-world physical sandbox game about a world that is overrun by brainless, boneless humanoid creatures, and even though they are pretty harmless, it doesn't stop you from getting in their way just for fun. So abuse VR physics, punch, destroy, build, and create contraptions. That's what it's all about.
So the funny thing is, I've got a funny fact about this game. The devs were asked, I don't know what publication it was that asked them, but one of them, like Upload or Road to VR, and they asked, why are all the characters in the game naked? And the dev said, well, if you don't have any bones in your body, then how can your clothes stay on?
So they actually thought it through. Sense. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
There you go.
Yeah, wow.
Full of useless trivia, me.
I got a question. This is probably good for our audio listeners as well, seeing as I'm remote and I can't see the trailer. Is the game played third person like Goat Simulator, or is it a first person game?
It's first person.
Because you play as a human, huh? You play as a human, and you see all like the boneless kind of creatures running and roaming around. Yeah.
Weird.
So available for Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, $19.99 early access now. And then next was actually a DLC that is releasing on the PlayStation VR again. It's for free. It's the Creed DLC, which adds iconic characters from the series such as Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed, Ivan Drago, Clubber Lang. and those were the ones that I found. So
Mr.
I don't know if
D.
there are actually more than them, but those are the ones that are actually in there at the moment. So.
Wait, isn't it free until Sunday? I think it was free until a certain date, and then you need to buy it. I think it's free until
really?
Sunday. At least that's what I saw on my Steam
I didn't see
profile.
that. I saw like a free DLC, so I thought like, that's
I'm not
nice.
sure,
Gonna
maybe,
put
but
that in there.
I saw something soon. But you can play as Mr. T, right? That's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Rocky Balboa himself, which is epic. You know,
People remember when it was launched? Like, that's what everyone was asking for. So
yeah, of course.
they just got in the studio, fucking put it together, and they're now releasing it for free. Like, kudos to them, because not putting a price tag on it. But it may be, again, it'd be interesting to see if Nathie's right, if it's actually a timed free. If it is, check your profiles.
Yeah,
exactly. Next up is just a moment here. Next up is Holopoint Chronicle, in early access now as well on the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift for $18.99, but it's 15% off right now as well. Have any of you played Chronicle, like Holopoint before?
No.
The original Holopoint is the first game I seriously injured myself with in VR. Yeah.
I think it's like a similar kind of. I mean, of course, it's an archery shooter because it's just like Holopoint. Holopoint Chronicle is intense archery combat. Explore the once lively island while skillfully weaving your way through waves of relentless holographic enemies, all while swiftly loosing arrows towards your target. So in early access now. So I think it's a similar kind of game, but it looks prettier. That's basically it.
I think there's also some form of locomotion. Like, you're not just in one dojo. I think that you're either there's multiple locations or there is some teleportation. That's what I remember checking out about.
Yeah, indeed.
A couple of weeks back. Yeah. So what's the date on that one again? I'm keen on it.
It's in early access right now. You can get it right now.
Sweet.
So just to go back to Creed, it is free. So I don't know, but still play it before Sunday because it's awesome.
All right.
Nice one. Cool. Is that all the releases? Rowdy,
no, there's more, Mike. There's much more.
Wow.
Uh-oh. Exactly. We got Virtual Army Revolution on the HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality. Also in early access right off now, $15.99, but it is also for 40% off right now. This is a fast-paced arcade multiplayer first-person shooter for virtual reality. Forget everything you've learned, they say. It's the fastest, most accessible shooter yet, and they have a free demo available as well. So, go and check that one out. Next up, we also got Kungfucious on itch.io. They have a free demo for the HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and Windows Mixed Reality. And as some of you might know, itch.io also has like a pricing point that you can like determine yourself how much you want to pay for it. So that's actually kind of nice. And this one is a Kung Fu Simulator sandbox where violence is virtue. You master the use of meridian points and chi skills to become the one true Kung Fu master. Don't know what that is, and I don't know how that will look on video, but it must be hilarious, especially if you look at the clips. And then I saved the best for last, guys. I really did.
Yeah, okay, bring it on. Is it a good one or is it a bad one? Is it something in the middle?
It's a fantastic one. I'm just gonna say fantastic. It's called Dog in a Box.
What?
Okay.
We're getting into the realms of Temple of Pizza here.
Oh, please.
I don't know. Like, I'm gonna let you guys be the judge.
Is it better than the pizza game? So, I gotta play it.
I don't know. I'm trying to beat Zim here, right?
Okay.
So I'll read it out. Dog in a Box is a virtual reality dog building game, allowing the player to step into the shoes of a traveling toy maker. As you step into the shoes of the toy maker, you should expect to receive unexpected orders for toy dogs in often strange locations. So, what do you guys think?
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
It's now $9.99, 30% off, available for the HTC Vive and Oculus.
Oh, I
see. It sounds like it should be a horror game.
It kind of, when you look at the trailer, which I'll play it again, it kind of looks like a horror game, especially in the beginning, because he picks like the body of a dog out of like a cart, and then he puts like heads on it, and he starts like throwing it around, which looks a bit like like a weird game. But yeah,
wow.
I don't know.
Dog in a Box. Remember that name. It's going places.
Shopkeep VR, where you actually forge and manufacture weapons and potions and things. And so you've got this whole kind of ordering system where people are requesting you to build certain things, and you're on a clock to do that.
Yeah, it's something similar. Yeah,
like
I believe it's similar to that. You get like orders, and you need to like put dogs together with like multiple hats and multiple whatever. Like it looks really weird. So yeah, you can see like in the trailer they're making like 3-legged dogs and that kind of stuff. 3-headed dogs and that kind of stuff. So.
Wow.
Cerberus. That is a quality find, Rowdy.
Wow. Wow, nice one. Nice one. Okay, so let's move on to some main topics then, because we're running a little bit behind schedule and we've got loads still to talk about. We're going to be talking about Pimax up next because this week we got an update from Pimax to the PyTool software, which is required to use when you're using the 5K Plus or the 8K headsets. And they've added features called Brainwarp and fixed foveated rendering technologies. And what we're going to talk about is what they mean and why it's important to them as a company and why it's important to us as consumers. Because let's start off with Brainwarp, because basically this technology is very similar to that used by Oculus called asynchronous space warp, and Valve, they use something similar again called motion smoothing. And basically it's the same technology but just branded with a different name, and it's called Brainwarp. But if you're not familiar with this technology, let me kind of break it down and explain it to you. So we all know that VR games should ideally run at 90 frames per second to make the experience smooth and comfortable experience for the user, right? But sometimes due to the hardware that we use or the game being very graphically intense, the gameplay dips below 90 frames per second. And that's undesirable because this can cause stuttering game, it can break immersion, and in extreme cases can make you feel quite sick. Really low frame rates can be a real cause of motion sickness. So this is where asynchronous space warp, motion smoothing, and brain warp kicks in. And basically how it works is it cuts the frame rate in half. So if the ideal frame rate is 90 frames per second, cuts it down to 45 frames per second, and then those frames are rendered from the GPU. Now, this is where the clever stuff comes in, because in between those 45 rendered frames, it inserts its own generated frames based on the previous frame before it. Okay, so that means that it bumps it back up to 90 frames per second, but half of those frames are inserted and half of them are rendered from the GPU. So let me just say that again, just in case you missed it. So basically, it cuts the frame rate down to 45 frames. They're rendered from the GPU. It inserts a frame in between each of those frames that basically takes the image from the last frame and pushes it forward depending on the rotation of your head and inserts it. So it basically makes it a smooth experience. So,
but it doubles the frames, right? It doesn't do any like estimating or guessing or any kind of that stuff. Like it's just a doubling of the frames.
It doubles the frame, but the guessing comes in where the head movement is involved. So it knows the rotation of your head and basically inserts that frame with the rotation.
So if they just doubled the frames, there'd be no discernible positive effect. Whereas this kind of almost like motion smoothing that's happening. The way I would say as a metaphor, if anyone didn't quite catch Mike's quite technical summary, is I'd say it's like if every second article you read was fake news, then the blurring you'd get of the truth would equate to your VR experience.
Nice. So
it sounds legit.
So although this sounds great on paper and it is pretty cool, it makes everything much smoother, which is great, it's desirable. You don't get good things in life for free. Basically, there always is a sacrifice to be made somewhere due to this. You just can't have it doubling your frame rate all of a sudden, everything be amazing. Basically, you do get, as a consequence of this, some artifacting, you get some tearing sometimes, and some other sort of distortion of the image basically when this kicks in. So it's not ideal. The ideal solution is to be running at 90 frames, but this kind of is a stopgap if you just can't make it sometimes. And ideally what this will do is it will only kick in when you're not hitting the maximum 90 frames. And then as soon as you start kicking 90 frames again, it turns itself off and everything's hunky-dory again. Oculus are working on their next version of this, by the way, Space Warp 2.0. We saw that demoed at OC5, which basically reduces the artifacting when it does kick in. But it's great to see that Pimax are implementing their own version of this, especially with the Pimax 5K Plus and the 8K headsets, because you really need a powerful graphics card to run these headsets in the first place. And now, a lot of people were sort of saying that, yeah, now that they've got Brainwarp, we're going to be able to run this on like a 1060 or a 1070. Don't get your hopes up, because what I would say is that that's probably not the case, and you wouldn't want to run a headset with this feature enabled all the time, because you're not going to be getting the experience that is intended. What you really need is, for these headsets, I would say, is minimum a 1080, ideally higher. But what this new sort of Brainwarp feature will do is give you that little bit more performance headroom, so you will get a better experience overall. It's not that you're going to be able to run this on a lower spec graphics card.
It's almost like making it even more simple. It sounds like when back in the days when you had a computer and you used one of those game boosters on your PC to enhance your experience, even if you didn't have the hardware to run those games. So it's kind of like a booster, an FPS booster.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, having 90 frames is better. Even with a bit of artifacting, it's a better experience. So it is good. And it really goes to show that Pimax, they've really pushed hard on the hardware side. And it's great to see them working hard on the software side. And I'm sure we'll hear more about it when you talk about your experience meeting them in China later on. But the other thing they added, as well as this Brainwarp feature, it's available now, by the way, is also fixed foveated rendering. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that very quickly, because we've talked about dynamic foveated rendering in the past on the show. And basically that works in conjunction with eye tracking modules, knowing exactly where your pupils are looking on the display of the headset, making sure that pinpoint is rendered at the full resolution, where everything else is kind of rendered at a lower resolution, therefore having a saving on performance on your graphics card. But obviously, we don't have eye tracking modules with the Pimax 5K Plus and the 8K right now. So what they're working on is fixed foveated rendering. And where we've seen this work really well in the past is on the Oculus Go. This is one of the first headsets that ever implemented fixed foveated rendering, and it works really well. Because what it does is it has a huge sweet spot in the middle, I would say, that is full resolution. And then the very edges get blurred a little bit. And then as it goes further out, it gets blurred even more. But that's fine, because your eyes don't necessarily focus on those things when you're looking directly ahead. And it's the same with this fixed foveated rendering on the Pimax. So you'll get that sweet spot in the middle. Everything else will kind of be blurred in the periphery, but it'll be a cost saving in performance, because those peripheral items don't have to be rendered at the full resolution. But the issue and the caveat with this right now is this is only available to utilize if you own a newer NVIDIA RTX card right now. So something like the 2080 or the 2080 Ti that features ray tracing technology, RTX cards. Not that it uses ray tracing, but they're ray tracing enabled cards. They're the only ones that can enable fixed foveated rendering on the Pimax Pi tool right now.
Is there a reason for that? Do you know that if there's a particular reason why that is the case, or
I think it's just
seems software-matic?
They want to roll it out to GTX owners as well. So 1080 Ti, according to Papa Voodoo. Okay. So I'll take his expertise on that. So apparently they're just working from the top down. This will be enabled for other cards in the future. But again, it's not going to make a huge difference, but it's just going to be a little bit nicer for those that are running, these high-end headsets.
Also, if you are interested, Papa Voodoo did some tests on his English channel, where you can see like different games performing with and without all of these new features. So go check it out. He's called Voodoo DA English version. Yeah, we gotta repeat this a few times, I think. But that's the one. Yes. Yeah. Just search for Voodoo DA Pimax, you will find it.
But from his hands-on conclusion, because I watched that video as well, he was playing Project Cars 2, I think, and he was playing on the 8K, which is limited to 80 frames per second. So his half of that with Brainwarp was 40 frames per second. Yeah. But he did say it was a better and more comfortable experience playing that game. So it does go to show that it does work. But I wouldn't say that it's going to be ideal for those running lower hardware. You still want the highest hardware to run these headsets. It's just going to make your experience a little bit better. That's all. So that's
when the synchronous space warp, brain warp, whatever you want to call it. When that kicks in, do you notice? I'm really curious to just take a quick poll here, because for me, and I've compared with other people, like I don't mind it. I don't mind the effect. It doesn't seem to really damage the experience, and I think it feels like magic as a gamer. Like
the only places where I think you can notice it are the places where it's a bit more complex to like predict, the smoothing or predict like the movement. For example, hands can often do that. like if you move in your fingers, because it's much harder to protect that kind of thing. I think then you might be able to see it, since I've seen like sometimes like artifacting happening on my hands when something like that kicks in. But yeah, I don't think that it's that big of a deal either. No.
Yeah. So that is Brainwarp and fixed foveated rendering for the Pimax, which you can download now if you own a Pimax. But let's hear more about Nathie traveling to meet Pimax at their headquarters and factory in China, which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us more. We're all super intrigued.
Well, let me first of all give you a summary of what I have been doing in just this like short week. So yeah, first of all, I traveled to Shanghai to do some meetups there, and also to get a tour from Pimax. Their main office is based in Shanghai. After I did all of that, I flew to Nanchang, and for the people that don't know, Nanchang is a very large city, and it's the capital of virtual reality, I would say, because there are more than 1,000 startups located there that are working on all kinds of VR technology. It's huge. You can't find that anywhere else than in China, I would say. They seem to be extremely advanced. So in Nanchang, I visited Pimax, their factory. That's where they make the Pimax headsets. And I also went to a VR theme park. We're going to talk about that another time because we're running short on time anyway. So, but yeah, I went to Nanchang. After Nanchang, I traveled to Beijing. And in Beijing, Vive is located. They have an office there. So they invited me over to, show me around. So that's kind of what I did in short. And then I also did some tourist stuff. I went to the Chinese Wall. Beautiful. It's really windy too, by the way. So if you ever go to the Chinese Wall, you got to have a good condition, and you don't want to fly away. That's what I would say. Oh yeah, you can make nice pictures too. So yeah, that's in short what I did in that week. And yeah, let's start with Pimax in Shanghai. So. Just to be upfront with this, I got invited by Pimax. They flew me over to China. They first wanted me to come to CES, but I was like, CES is great, but I can also just, get a summary of what happened there on the internet. So I was like, I gotta go to China because it's a mysterious country. We have no idea how big VR is over there. So I was like, I'm just going to grab that opportunity and tell Pimax, like, listen, I appreciate the opportunity because going to America is always, super fun. But I was like, listen, I want to see what you guys are doing in your office. I want to learn more about your culture. I want to learn what your vision is with the Pimax and how you see our little area from your side. So it was super fun. They were well prepared, by the way. They are in an office where it's a shared space. So you have many companies there, and they are one of the companies that is located in this. They call it an incubator, and so the first thing they showed me was their test room where they test all the Pimax headsets. Now they told me that when they make headsets in the factory, they already test them once, and that's from seeing if it has any dead pixels, things like that. But since some people had some issues, they decided to build a test room into their office to kind of do a double check on some batches. And if they find too many headsets that are kind of broken or they have certain flaws, then they would call the factory and say listen, this batch is not okay. We gotta, catch up again. So this was a double check at their office testing all these headsets. And you gotta think of a room with people sitting behind desks in what is it, hazard suits? I don't know. So that sounds kind of extreme, but they were in suits to hold off the dust. And yeah, they were testing headsets, and it took them about 6 minutes to test one headset, putting them on, look around, checking some cables, display, things like that. They also tested headsets for 12 hours where they put it on the computer, waited for 12 hours, and then they were kind of seeing what they were doing. So that was kind of like the performance test room. Very interesting to see. I have never seen something like that before. So I was like, what the heck is this? What is going on in this place? Like, is this how you test your headset? So because you have a certain, idea in your mind of what testing means, right? And every company has their own way of doing that. And of course, Pimax is a startup, so it might not go the way it goes at bigger companies. But yeah, and I recorded all of that too. So there is a tour on my channel if you're interested. And the video itself is like a mix of me showing you around. Of course, Pimax really wanted to tell how proud they are of their product, and they are very also like happy with their community. They love them. It goes beyond than just like, oh, we have customers and they are numbers. No, these are like they're so important for them. And I noticed that from the start. Like they were constantly talking about their backers and their customers. So yeah, they wanted to tell me how how proud they were of their. Well, and I think they should, because I mean, it's a big thing to kickstart a product and get this far. So I totally feel that. So while I was on this tour, I also went to the back room that was attached to the test area, and there were like boxes everywhere. And this is like a heaven for VR enthusiasts, where you see so many heads where you're like, I'm gonna grab them all and I want to take them all home, like that. And it's unbelievable that a company can work this way, because I thought it was working. I don't know, like you can come up with so many ideas of what they would be doing there and how they do it. And that's why going to China was so mind-blowing. I was like, well, wait, is this how it works? It's crazy. So I don't know if you guys have any questions, but that's kind of like the first part of my tour, like seeing this test area, this test room.
So some of the I've got a question. So because I noticed in your video, I watched the video, I thought it was really good, by the way. I thought it was well done. I think a lot of people were really interested to see behind the scenes of Pimax. So I think you're the first person to do it. But you had hands-on with the controllers at one point, actual working versions of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
How did you sort of feel they were when you actually had hands-on experience with them?
So after I, checked out the test room and seeing all the batches they were about to ship, we went downstairs, and there they had their like main office where they have their marketing team and their support and stuff like that. And they had a little corner where they show businesses what they make, because it's very important as a company to show potential investors what your headset does and what it's all about. You got to try VR to believe in it, basically. So they had controllers everywhere laying around. They were like versions, like the first Pimax controllers, and then the second one, and the ones that were on CES. There were so many, like they were spread around everywhere. And it's funny that in the video I say Knuckles controllers, because funny enough, they don't have a name. They don't have a name for these controllers. And they were fine with it. I first was like, oh, maybe I insulted them now because I named them Knuckles, right? But I mean, honestly, they kind of look like Knuckles, and they seem to be inspired by the Knuckles. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. You should be proud of that. And as you may know, in China, it's pretty normal to look at other companies, what they do, and kind of, mix that up with your own ideas. But as also Voodoo said, Papa Voodoo at CES, is that the rings around your hands are still very big, and they need to be smaller. But it felt solid. Yeah, they're like solid controllers. But I don't know. They are, of course, different than the Knuckles, because they also need to build software for it and let developers make something for it. And like the squeezy things are, like with the Knuckles, a very cool feature that with the Pimax still needs to be, of course, developed. So yeah.
And what about base stations? Did you see any sort of like base stations that they've made?
I did check that. They did have a lot of base stations, but they were all or 1.0 or 2.0 Valve ones.
Right.
So like the ones from HTC.
Yeah.
They did have some molds laying around from the Pimax and also the controllers from the very start. And the most fantastic thing I've seen in the office was they had a shelf with like all kinds of awards and very impressive ones that I didn't even knew they won. They had like a certification from the government. They were, of course, super proud of that, and I think it's a big achievement if you get an award from the government in China, dude. Like that's just great, I would say. But they had Steve Jobs on one of the shelves. And then I was asking, like, what is Steve Jobs doing?
The real one? I hope not.
Yeah, the real one. Yeah, the real Steve Jobs. It was like a book. And there were like candles around it too. I was like, what is this for? Some kind of altar, like some. And then they told me that Robin Wang, he's like a CEO of Pimax. He is like Steve Jobs is his idol. He's like a big fan of Steve Jobs. And yeah, I was like, okay, okay, yeah, everyone has their own thing, right? And they also had the Guinness Book there, so we looked it up. I'm in there, and they're in there too. We share a page, so it was kind of cool to share. But something that really sticked with me is that because we of course did this tour, but we spoke about a lot more. Is that their like marketing campaign is. Like they like, let's say, DJI, you know the drones. Mm-hmm. They really like the drones, and they like the marketing campaign they do. And they said that they are very inspired by DJI, their campaign. And to kind of explain what that means is, if you talk about DJI, you think about an American company, right? But in the end, DJI is not an American company. But the way they market their product seems to be American, but it's not. It's not American, and that's what Pimax wants to do now too. They have opened an office in the U.S. and they have a spokesman too now that was at CES. So they are slowly turning into a American company, and then also you get a better relationship between your customers, and because we have seen so much confusion and they don't always seem to understand that, and I totally get that, because China has a different community than we have in the West, so trying to meet both standards is of course a challenge. But I feel like, as you may know, I've been very skeptical about the Pimax, and also about the way they work, and then the support they have, and how they do their marketing, how they communicate. But after being there, I understand way better now what they are doing. And then some of the things that might look weird to us are not that crazy as you think they are, if you know the story behind it. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I trust them a lot more than I did before. And
so the thing is, everyone just needs to go to China.
No, I think that's why, like, they have a U.S. office, and that's kind of like their translator for them, and that can kind of speak for them. And I think that's the way to go. Like for me too, if someone would tell me like, yeah, but Pimax did this and that, then I could explain them why they are doing it that way. But that's not always the answers you can get, right? So
I have one last question, and then, if you've got any questions in the chat, by the way, you want to ask Nathie about Pimax, now's the time to do it. But my last question for you is, did you see my headset there, and when am I going to get it?
Well, your name was on it, like a Santa gift, right? Label.
It was the one. Was that the one that you picked up and threw very hard on the ground after they did the manual test? I think it was that one that you showed me on a video. Look, this is my headset.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like I couldn't really see what names were on there, but they did tell me that they have a very large community in the UK, so that might work in your favor. And there were like big packages with Pimaxes in there. So yeah, I have a good feeling about their shipment. I did try to kind of ask them, like, listen, what is the time frame? What are you going for? But I just couldn't get an answer on that. They said that, since they are a startup, they are kind of like learning along the way. The more they ship, the better they can predict what to do next. And I think that's the same what happened to the Oculus Rift, because the Oculus Rift at the start also had some issues shipping, and then it catched up steam later on, and then it went fine. It went super smooth. Of course, they have a way longer learning curve here, but I think they will do it. And they said, like, the most important right now for us is to ship these headsets out. Because I was asking about these headphones they have been promising and all these straps and fancy gadgets. But they were like, we promised that, and they are going to deliver on that, I think. But they were like, headsets need to be out first. Most important thing. And I think that's a good...
Go on, Zim.
I got a question for Nathie. So from your China trip, Pimax related or otherwise, what surprised you the most about the Asian market, VR wise?
You mean the way the people are, or the hardware, or
whatever? I'm just curious what stood out to you as, what was an observation where you went, wow, this really isn't like it is, in Europe or where else you've seen it in the Americas?
I would say they are willing to go much further than anyone else right now in the VR market. They want to take the risks, and they don't seem to care that much. Where we would say, like, yeah, but that gets you sick right now, or that's maybe too overpowered at the moment, or that's not gonna work, or no consumer is gonna be interested in that. They just do it, and they just wait and see what happens. But that's of course because they are all working together. The government is of course a big part of what happens in China, and the government is also funding all the VR there. Well, here in the West, everyone needs to do it by themselves. So they have a long-term vision that we can't have at the moment, because here that would be a risk. But over there they have much more play space to be more advanced than we are. But the thing that stood out the most is these people are very, very loyal to the company they are working for. They are super motivated to make VR succeed. They want VR to be the best thing ever, and they don't want to slow down right now. They also told me, like, they like these standalone headsets that are coming out, but they don't want to kind of stick with one thing right now. No, they want to constantly make something better. And if that's maybe a new headset every 6 months, they don't care. They just want to make sure that the VR industry keeps rolling, because it's too early to now stop and be like, okay, let's make this headset, let's just sell it for 2 years and then go to the next one. They are totally not like that, I would say.
Yeah.
But they can, I feel like they are very trustable people. They are they, like, working together with them is something else than I would say in, for example, the US. It's hard to explain. That's why I wanted to go there to understand it better. And I'm still left with so many questions, but it was an amazing trip. So that was only Pimax, right? Should I tell some more about this factory I went to, or?
So we've got a couple of questions in the chat first.
Sure.
So first up, I want to give a shout out to My Rift Kid, who's given us a $20 super chat donation. So thank you very much to him. Really appreciate it. He says,
"You're really gonna get that robot still,
Yeah, I'm gonna get it. Ed209, you'll see him in my home, my Oculus Home later. But he says, this is so much easier than Patreon or PayPal. Keep up the great work, fellas. Your info is invaluable to me. So thank you very much to My Rift Kid for the super chat. Really appreciate it, mate. We've got a question here. Did you try the OLED version of the Pimax headset, and did you notice any screen door effect with that? Good or bad?
Honestly, I didn't really try much in terms of VR, because, as you may know, I have 3 headsets at home. So for me, it was not the main focus to really, test out the controllers or the headset or anything like that. It was more like a side thing. Honestly, I wasn't even planning.
Because there was a question in the chat as well. If there was any capacitive touch for the finger. So was that something?
You mean like pushing it in and then having this kind of like a little bit of feedback?
Like the knuckles, so you can just kind of touch it.
Yeah, but that's what I said. Like, that's still they still need to develop that. So no, but Yeah, honestly, I wasn't first even planning to make a video there. I was just like, I'm just gonna get a tour, fine. And then I was like, wow, this is kind of next level. Maybe I should record this because no one will believe what is happening here. But yeah, let me talk in short about me going to Nanchang, because that's, as I said before, was the place where the factory of Pimax was located, and I can tell you that it's not standard practice to go to a factory and then see how they make a headset. It's like getting invited by Mr. Krabs and then learn more about his secret recipe of how this hamburger is getting made, right?
Nice SpongeBob reference. I like it.
Yeah, or like Coca-Cola saying like, listen, this is how we brew our drink.
Yeah.
But that's what Pimax did. They invited my brother and I over to come to this factory where they put the headset together. And first of all, I wasn't allowed to make any photos or video. I had to put my shoes into like some kind of locker. We also had to get decontained, is it called decontainment? How is it?
Decontaminated.
Exactly that. To blow off the dust and not take anything in there, because before you know it, you will find a little bit of yellow there. And you're like, oh, that was Nathie. Okay, in your headset, in your in your display. But so it was super clean there, and they put us in front of a window, and this window was sealed off. You couldn't see anything. And then one moment there was a guy stripping off some kind of layer of the window, and I could look inside. And they told me you can look inside for, let's say, like 10 minutes, and then we will go on. So this was classified, and usually you can't look inside. They only do this for, people that are investors or companies that want to learn more about what they do. So they showed me how they put them together, so you could see what parts they are using, what the process is like, stuff like that. They were like people sitting in a lineup, working on these little chips and putting things together. Super sci-fi.
So what you're saying now is basically that you now have the knowledge to make your own Pimax headset.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
The
exactly.
Nathie headset.
Yeah. Exactly. And
there's going to be a company in the US that is going to be making Pimax headsets, except they're not called Pimax headsets, but they're called Nathies or something like that.
Yeah. So I learned a lot about how a Pimax gets made and what materials they use, where the lenses come from, and what goes in there. Then I was also able to go inside where they do all that stuff. But you had to put all kinds of stuff on. I don't know.
So
did you have a chocolate river?
Yeah, VR Bug in the chat is saying this sounds like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
He's making the same joke as I was. God damn it.
Yeah, but there was no chocolate river, sadly, and I didn't go down a tunnel either in a boat. That was my favorite scene of the movie, by the way.
A river of pixels.
Yes, but I was like, at that moment, I was like, why am I here, and why are they showing this to me? Because I am a content creator in a way. So inviting someone like me over is but again, that after visiting this factory, I realized again, they want to show how proud they are of what they make, and that they are serious about it. And it's not about me, seeing how everything is getting put together. No, it's like, we made this, like we kickstarted this project. We have people working for us, putting this together, and it's all, running. It's all working. So yeah, it was awesome.
We got a question in the chat from Dennis. He said, did you see any sort of sneak peeks or any upcoming hardware that maybe after, the 5K Plus or the 8K, or any sort of hint at that during any of your tour?
Well, you mean even more Pimax headsets? Like
the Pimax 20K, yeah, exactly.
Like, as far as I know, this is their lineup at the moment. So they have the 4K series, the 5K series, and the 8K series. So I think that's about it for now.
So my Rift Kid says he's glad you didn't get sucked up into a custom bent water cooling pipe.
Yeah.
Yet.
Oh wow. No, but that was a surreal experience, and you need to know, like, I don't know about you guys, but this was a first for me to see how they manufacture a headset.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see. It makes you realize how happy we should be with what we have right now and how much work goes in there to make these headsets so magical as like the way they work. And that's where the fantasy gets created. It's maybe not the most romantic place, but it's reality. And I play so much in VR and not really knowing where my headset came from and how much time it took to test and how it got made. And now I'm like, yeah, I appreciate headsets more. And if that's a cheaper one or a very high advanced one or whatever, it makes you realize more of how happy we should be for what we have already right now.
So we've got some more questions in the chat. One from Major Ping 5, and they say it's obvious that the trip was a positive experience for you. Was there anything that you saw or experienced that gave you any concern?
What, at Pimax or just in general?
Pimax, I would guess, as we're talking about that mainly, I suppose.
Well, but the only thing that sometimes concerned me is that they misunderstand their customers. But that's, I think, with every Chinese company sometimes, where they need to kind of learn what the other market is all about. And with Pimax, that is concerning at the moment, but as I said before, they are building on that now and trying to create this US office. They will have more people working there. There was one employee that had to stay up at like very early in the morning and late in the evening to just give that support to people in the US. And yeah, you can say whatever you want, like the support was kind of strange or not what I was expecting, but I'm like, this guy does everything he can to help people out. But that's just because I met him in person, so I have a different feeling about it now. So other people might slap like customers, like, what are you doing? It's not helpful. But it's just like the effort.
It's clear. It's very clear. What they just need to do is send every single one to China. Just every single backer needs to go to China to go and check it out. That's what they need to do.
So one more thing, Mike, because you were talking about your your headset maybe being there. Like sadly, I can't tell you if it was. Maybe I did leave a mark on it. So if you want to, put my signature on there, so people like if you get the signature, it's like a golden ticket. If we talk about Charlie and the factory, but I was like walking around and they had like computers everywhere and laptops, and one moment I saw someone watching your videos. I'm not making this up.
That's hilarious.
They have a research team looking for let's say influencers to maybe try out their headset.
And they're probably saying, yeah, this guy's been way too sort of critical of our products before. Let's like hold his headset back. Hold his headset back. He's the last person.
Yeah, but actually that's the people they were looking for. And it's the same with me. They sent these headsets and they knew I was skeptical, but they gave me a chance anyway. And I think that's a very brave step to take. Yeah, plus, definitely. Like Mike, you also know we are not roasting headsets or products or games, whatever. We just want it to be the best out there for everyone.
I think it's fair to say, we've all been pretty skeptical of Pimax, but especially what we've been talking about today, with the Brainwarp and the foveated rendering and the fact that they're getting the headsets out to customers now. They've achieved a lot. So I'm definitely still keeping an open mind. I still don't have a final verdict on it because I don't have my headset yet. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. So let's just end. I don't know. Is there more questions about the Pimax myself?
So I guess there's a question for all of us from Eric for president, and he says, what do you think is more important, new innovative HMD or better VR games on what we currently have? I know Rowdy's answer.
Yeah, but my answer is better games. I think that the current hardware, that a lot more can be done. I'm not saying it's perfect, but a lot more can be done in terms of games with the current hardware.
Yeah, no, I agree. What about you two guys?
Yeah, I would have said that before. I think I still stand on software.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, I'm excited about hardware. Like
I'm excited
same here.
For the Valve headset.
But I want something to play.
But I think I think that's exactly what companies have to do in the West for sure. Well, in China, they have this long-term vision, and they have way more funds to play with. So over there, that's a different story. They don't have to constantly deliver. They can do both basically, and not feel the impact. Well. In the West, I sometimes feel like, as a company, it's a rat race. You gotta stay alive and hope that VR is becoming mainstream soon. Well, over there, they are not in a hurry because they are not getting affected by the popularity of VR, so they can push forward real fast without having to slow down. Well, here, sometimes a game doesn't sell well, a studio needs to close, or you make a headset because consumers need to buy it. Well, they sometimes make headsets that no one can buy, but why do they have to? Like, no one seems to. Yeah, talking about that, there were so many different headsets there, like weird ones that I've never seen before. Like there were moments on my Twitter that people were like asking, like, what is this headset? I was like, I don't know. I didn't even know I was wearing a different one. There were headsets where I was like, these are super good. These are like better than most headsets I tried. Like one of the main ones that I liked the most was called 3D glasses. That's the name of the brand, and it has like a little eye in the front, and it's all the way tracked. Even in my hotel, I could play VR in the lobby. I could just watch 360s. I could play games. Like that's what happens in China. I have never been to a hotel where I can just play some VR. Like what the heck is this?
In Bulgaria, they had like this one dude where you had like, and he would put you in and he would like shake you around. You had to like wear the glasses.
Oh my god!
I've seen that before.
Okay, so we're running on a bit, but I'm definitely interested to hear more about your adventures in China. So I think we're going to talk about it more next week, right? Your adventures going to a VR theme park, right? So that's going to be super interesting to talk about.
And also live their office.
Of course. So we'll hold off that till next week because we are running super late. But I hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this one. I want to say happy birthday to Zim for last week. I hope you had a great birthday. So happy birthday to you. I want to say thanks to the Riff Kid and Gamertag VR for the super chats. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that joined us live and got involved in the conversation in the chat. Love interacting with you guys and girls during the show. It's great to have you here. And thank you to everyone else that tunes into the show, either on catch up or our audio listeners as well. We appreciate you all very much. So we will be back next week, obviously talking more about Nathie's adventure in Asia. But until then, have a great week in VR, and bye-bye for now. So take care. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
See you later.